Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। Om Namo Vishnupadaya Krishnapeshtaye Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gaurvani Pracharini Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschat Deshatarine Jayo Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advait Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda He Krishna Karna Sindhu Deenbandhu Jagatpate Gopesh Gopika Kanta Shri Radha Kanta Namostute Tapt Kanchan Gaurangi Shri Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So welcome devotees to today's class on Karma Yoga, chapter number 3 of Bhagavad Gita. And we have covered two-third part of this chapter already. So just to review the last verse we covered. So the last verse we covered was 30, verse number 30. Lord's instructions are given in this verse. What he says, what is the purpose of Bhagavad Gita? Purpose of Bhagavad Gita is surrender all work unto me, that is do Nishkam Karma. Then with full knowledge of me, that is you have full faith in me, in my instructions. And thereafter he says that without desire for profit, don't think of that you are the doer and you will want to enjoy the profit of your work. Then he says that no claim of proprietorship, nirmama, there is nothing, that there is nothing yours, no lordship of material nature or the outcome or fruits of the activity, and be free from lethargy. Give up this kind of your low mentality and find. So this is instruction. Now we start today's session with the verse number 31. Yes, anybody would like to read it? Please raise your digital hand. Yes, Riya Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Yes, Hare Krishna.
Ye me matam idam nityam anustis anutisthanti manavha shraddha banto nasuyanto musayante te pi karma bhi. Those people who execute their duties according to my injunctions and who follow this teaching faithfully without envy become free from the bondage of fruitive actions. Hare Krishna.
So now, in earlier verse, Lord said, do this, follow me, follow my instructions, have faith in me, give up the results, give up the proprietorship. Now, what he is telling in this verse that what is the fate of those persons who follow my instructions? Those persons who execute their duties according to my injunctions and who follow my teachings faithfully without envy. Anusuyantu. Anusuya means envy. मुच्यन्ते ते अपि कर्मभिः ये मे मतम इदम नित्यम अनुतिष्ठन्ति मानवाः श्रद्धावन्तो अनुशयन्तो मुच्यन्ते ते अपि कर्मभिः. Those persons who follow my instructions faithfully and also follow my teachings faithfully, my injunctions, they do not have any envy. Such person become free from bondage of fruitive actions. That means Lord has already given instructions that you work in a nishkam yoga manner, then the results will not bind you. So, but the results do not bind you, then the cycle of birth and death is already given up. So, how to do it? Yes, Mataji, dear Mataji, please continue this one, next one. This one.
Faith in the eternal injunctions of the Lord are very important for liberation from karma bondage. Even an ordinary man, unable to execute such orders, become liberated. In the beginning of Krishna consciousness, one may not fully discharge the injunctions of the Lord. He is not resentful of this principle and works sincerely without consideration of defeat, sure to be promoted to the stage of pure Krishna consciousness. Several philosophers write comments on the Bhagavad Gita with no faith in Krishna. They will never be liberated from the bondage of fruitive action. Hare Krishna.
Okay, so here very clearly the further explanation of verse number 31 is given here, that there are large number of commentators who have written of Bhagavad Gita. So many people have given commentary on Bhagavad Gita. But what about their faith in Krishna? Is the faith also of the same degree? So that commentary becomes ineffective ineffective when its influence or impact is concerned, because it doesn't appeal to you. But when we hear commentary or commentations or purport from a person who is authorized, who is in disciplic succession, and also who is himself a great devotee, like Srila Prabhupada, then we get influenced. Earlier also, in fact, some of us might have gone through Bhagavad Gita commentary written by many other authors. Never such an impact was created upon our mind or heart. We never agreed to follow the injunctions. But language here is so simplified, practicable, and we can live it in our day-to-day life. So Krishna says here that those who, the fate of those persons who obey my instructions, who have faith in me, who do not desire any kind of result out of their actions, who offer the fruits to me, they ultimately get bondage from their fruitive activities, and they are liberated from the cycle of birth and death. Yes, this one also Mataji.
Ye tava idat abhayasu yanto na suti santi me matam sarva jnana bimudham tan vidhi nastan esitasa. But those who, out of envy, disregard these teachings and do not follow them regularly are to be considered bereft of all knowledge, befooled, and ruined in their endeavors for perfection. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Bhagwan. So you see, earlier Lord said that those who follow my instructions, and the most important word was the anusuyanto. That means those do not have envy. Though people have a lot of envy towards Krishna, they do not want to accept Krishna as Supreme Personality of Godhead. So that is one of the reasons why they fail to understand Krishna. When we have developed envy towards someone, we do not see the reality. We compare ourselves with the other person. So they want to become Krishna. People do not believe that Krishna was a Supreme Personality of Godhead. He appeared here for certain purpose only during that the Upper Yuga. So those people who are envious, whether they are commentators on Bhagavad Gita or they do not accept, like Shishupal did not accept Krishna, as Kansa did not accept. So many demons do not accept Krishna. Even the cowherds and the gopis were so innocent, such a pure devotee, they did not know that the Krishna is Supreme Personality of Godhead. But they were not envious. The demons were envious of Krishna. So demons and such commentators on Bhagavad Gita, they can never understand Krishna. And what is their fate? The person who has faith, he goes to Krishna Loka, or he gets liberation from the cycle of birth and death. But those who are full of envy, they disregard Krishna's teaching and do not follow them regularly in their life. They become bereft of all knowledge. They become ignorant. They become befooled. They become ruined in their endeavors for perfection. And what is the perfection? Perfection is to self-realization. If you envy Krishna, then whatever efforts you make to understand Krishna consciousness, one can never be successful. So that is another injunction from Lord Krishna here. Yes, anybody would like to, Chanda Mataji, you would like to read?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yes, Mataji, please go. Verse number 33.
Sadrisham chetase, sorry. Sadrisham cheshtate swasyaha prakritiryānavānapi prakritim yanti bhutani nigraha kim karishyati. Even a man of knowledge acts accordingly to his own nature, for everyone follows the nature he has acquired from the three modes. What can repression accomplish?
Thank you, Mataji. So now two stages are very clearly defined. One, person who acts follows my instruction, his fate is defined. One person who does not follow my instruction, his fate is defined. But why people do not do so? Now, this is third dimension of this situation. When person are knowledgeable, but we have already studied earlier that people act helplessly under the influence of three modes of material nature. They willingly or unwillingly, they do act in a certain manner. So here, the influence of three modes of material nature is defined. That because of three modes of material nature, person acts according to his acquisitions of nature which is achieved from the previous birth or previous life rather. So these three modes of material nature forces one to act in a particular fashion. Now Arjuna asks, what can repression accomplish? If everybody has to act according to the mode of material nature, then what is the purpose of repression? Now, here it is very clearly indicated that there is jnana, there is karma, and there is bhakti. But if only by acquiring knowledge or only by acquiring yogic exercises and mystic perfection, can one control over his three modes of material nature? He cannot. He is not able to. We have seen that example of a pretender Mithyachari sadhu who was smoking and talking on a mobile phone. Because apparently he was a renunciate, but internally. So that means jnana and siddhi or karma yoga, one cannot attain perfection. What can lead to perfection? That is only bhakti yoga. What can repression accomplish? Repression means to suppress these three modes of material nature. So one has to act compulsorily according to his modes of material nature. Then what he is to suppress? So Krishna furthermore here, yes, this one also.
Yes, Prabhuji. इन्द्रियस्येन्द्रियस्यार्थे रागद्वेषौ व्यवस्थितो तयोर्न वशमागच्छेतो हयस्य परिपन्थिनो. There are principles to regulate attachment and aversion pertaining to the senses and their objects. One should not come under the control of such attachment and aversion because they are stumbling blocks on the path of self-realization. Hare Krishna.
Please explain this picture on right hand side also, Mataji.
Okay.
Who is he? What is happening here? The deer story?
Dear story, I don't remember, Prabhuji.
Bharat Maharaj?
Bharat Maharaj.
Acha, Bharat Maharaj.
Yeah. So anyway, I will come to it. There are principles to now the impurities of heart or the control over the senses, mind, and intelligence cannot be attained by karma yoga or jnana yoga alone. It is only bhakti yoga which can control all these three levels, that is intelligence, mind, and senses. They can be controlled by bhakti yoga easily. We have seen so many great persons, even Bharat Maharaj, such an accomplished, elevated soul, but out of his, one of the senses was diverted towards the affection of this fawn or the baby deer, who was just who was given birth in the midstream after hearing the roar of a loin. Then mother she deer, she gave birth to this baby, and the baby was picked up, baby deer was picked up by Bharat Maharaj, he became so attached. This attachment, this is what they are talking about, attachment and aversion. Attachment, how to regulate this rag. Rag is attachment and dvesha is the aversion. So they are the byproducts of senses and their sense objects. So one should come under the control of such attachment and aversion because they are stumbling blocks on the path of self-realization. That means a person who is a Gyan Yogi or a Karma Yogi, it is very difficult for him to purify these impurities of rag and dvesha from his heart. But if he takes to Bhakti Yoga, he can easily control these rag and dvesha because they are essential for self-realization. If one has got attachment and one has got aversion for sense and sensory objects, then probably he cannot attain self-realization. So this is this, please read this one. Then Swayam Prabha Mataji.
May I, Prabhuji? Or
Yeah, please, you continue this one, then Swayam Prabha Mataji.
unrestricted sense enjoyment is the cause of material
And
uh,
engage. This is wrong. Material engagement, you can read it.
material engagement. But one who follows the rules and regulation of the revealed scriptures does not become entangled by the sense objects. One has to follow those rules and regulations unattached to them because practice of sense gratification and the regulation may also lead one to go astray. As much as there is always the chance of an accident, even on the royal roads. The whole purpose of detachment from all kind of sense attachment is ultimately to become situated on the platform of Krishna consciousness. Hare Krishna.
So this is a very supplement to the previous verse, how to get away with the raga and dvesha or attachment and aversion towards the sensory objects. So this is a further explanation here. Now, a person has got two kinds of duties here. One is material duties, which are determined by his psychophysical attitudes, which he has adopted on account of three modes of material nature. And the other is spiritual duty of a person. Now, spiritual duty means the duties which have been dictated or which have been instructed by the spiritual master. And this duty, if one performs, then person can easily control his the three modes of material nature and proceed in the path of Krishna consciousness. And the whole purpose of detachment from all kinds of sense attachment is ultimately to become situated on the platform of Krishna consciousness. So the basic purpose is that we should follow the instructions of a spiritual master, follow his instructions, practice them in our life, and render devotional service to Krishna. Then it is easier to get away from the raga and dvesha, that is attachment and aversion, and also proceed on the path of Krishna consciousness. Yes, Swayam Prabha Mataji. Please unmute yourself.
Yeah. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Yeah. Shreyan swadharmo viguna paradharmat swanushtitam swadharme nidhanam shreya paradharmo bhayavaha. It is far better to discharge one's prescribed duties, even though faultily, than another's duties perfectly. Destruction in the course of performing one's own duty is better than engaging in another's duties, for to follow another's path is dangerous. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. So Krishna has, in fact, here anticipated the mind of or read the mind of Arjuna. Arjuna wants to avoid fight. We know all and that is why Krishna is speaking on Karma Yoga here. He might ask that if one adopts to others' duties, such as non-violence, rather than doing one's own duty of fighting the battle due to attachment and repulsion. So, say, I adopted Arjuna, say he might have a feeling that I should avoid this duty of fighting, because it is a violent act. So let me adopt non-violence, and then it will be a better thing to do. I will be controlling my senses also. But here Lord says it is far better to discharge one's prescribed duty, and the prescribed duty of Arjuna is to fight as a Kshatriya in the battlefield, even though faultly, even if you lose, no problem, then another's duty perfectly. So the being kind and soft-hearted is not the attitude, the attribute or the quality of a Kshatriya. He is supposed to be brave, courageous, and fight in the battlefield and kill the enemy. So if you are becoming soft towards enemies, and you are willing to run away the battlefield, then you are not doing your duty. You are adopting a person, another person's duty at this point. Now, distraction in the course of performing one's own duty is better than engaging in another's duties. He says, don't be kind or soft-hearted, or don't think of non-violence at this stage, because this is not your duty. Even if you perform your duty of fighting in a poor manner, or in maybe with a faulty manner, it is better than following another's path, which is dangerous. So it is very clearly, because Krishna understands the mind of Arjuna very well. Krishna is wanting to, Arjuna is wanting to avoid in whatever manner the battle, the fighting he could do. Yes, Mataji, this one, please. Shrishti Mataji, after Swam Prabha Mataji.
Shall I, Prabhuji?
Yes, Mataji, please continue.
For a Kshatriya, it is better to be vanquished following the rules of violence than to imitate a Brahmana who follows the principles of non-violence.
Thanks.
Everyone has to cleanse his heart by a gradual process, not abruptly. However, when one transcends the modes of material nature and is fully situated in Krishna consciousness, he can perform anything and everything under the direction of a bona fide spiritual master. In that complete stage of Krishna consciousness, the Kshatriya may act as a Brahmana, or a Brahmana may act as a Kshatriya. In the transcendental stage, the distinctions of the material world do not apply. For example, Vishwamitra was originally a Kshatriya, but later on he acted as a Brahmana, whereas Parashurama was a Brahmana, but later on he acted as a Kshatriya. Being transcendentally situated, they could do so, but as long as one is on the material platform, he must perform his duties according to the modes of material nature. At the same time, he must have a full sense of Krishna consciousness.
Thank you,
Hare
Mataji.
Krishna Prabhuji.
Thank you, Mataji. So the situation is very clearly defined in this purport. The clarity is that Arjuna is a Kshatriya. He should not adopt the qualities of a Brahmana. Brahmana has to be a kind-hearted person, soft-hearted person, very merciful to others, and very non-violent in nature. So Krishna knew that by denying to fight, probably he'd adopting the qualities of Brahmana. Whereas he's a Kshatriya, he has to fight. So this is why in earlier this verse Krishna said that it is better to perform your own duty in a faulty manner rather than adopt the duty of another person and do it with perfection. Even if you die fighting, while that is the worst thing. Even if you die fighting, even then, earlier we have read that even then you are not a loser, because a Kshatriya who dies in the battlefield goes to heavenly planets. And if you are going to win, then you are going to rule the kingdom and enjoy the kingdom, opulence of the kingdom. So there is no loss in either conditions. And here, example of Vishwamitra and Parashuram. Parashuram was, is a high elevated Brahman, and 21 times in the glories, we know that 21 times he made this entire planets free of Kshatriyas. He was a Brahmin. And similarly, the example of Vishwamitra is given here. So, but both were situated transcendently into Krishna consciousness. That is why they could attain that perfection. whether Vishwamitra or Parashram. So similar teachings is being given to Lord by Lord to the Arjuna. So this is the next section, conquering the ultimate enemy, lust. Now, in this section, Lord is going to explain why certain people act in a particular manner, why other people act in a different manner, and what makes them. Earlier, he has just mentioned that it is the three modes of material nature under the influence of which people act in a particular manner. So, why they act? This is being explained in the 36 to 43, the last section of this chapter. So, next, yes, Mataji, please continue. Swayam Prabha Mataji. Hare Krishna. Swayam Prabha Mataji, please continue. Then Shrishti
Yes,
Mataji.
Prabhuji.
Yeah,
I'll continue.
yeah, please continue. Just then
36 is
Shrishti
it?
Mataji. Yes,
Yeah.
next.
Arjuna Uvacha अथ केन प्रयुक्तोऽयम् पापं चरति पूरुषः अनिच्छन्नपि वा श्रेय बलादिव नियोजितः. Arjuna said, O descendant of Vrishni, by what is one impelled to sinful acts, even unwillingly, as if engaged by force? Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. So, he's in fact, he is asking for all these questions for us. Basically, why why certain people are impelled to sinful acts. Why people do sinful activity at all? Because they are part and parcel of Supreme Personality of Godhead. So initially, when people, living entities come into being, they are pure. Their consciousness is completely pure. They are uncontaminated by three modes of material nature. But as soon as they come in contact with material nature, they acquire certain mode, and that mode may be goodness, passion, or ignorance. So Krishna is asking why people are impelled to do sinful activities, even unwillingly, and as if they were acting, some kind of force was acting upon them, and they were, by that force, they were committing sinful activities. Yes, Shrishti Mataji, the further explanation will come, we will discuss here.
Hare Krishna,
Yes,
Prabhuji.
Mataji.
Love transforms into lust when a living entity comes in contact with the material creation. As milk in contact with sour tamarind is transformed into yogurt. Unsatisfied lust turns into wrath. Wrath is transformed into illusion. Illusion continues the material existence. Lust is the greatest enemy, entangling the living entity in the material world. Wrath is the manifestation of the mode of ignorance. If therefore the mode of passion, instead of being degraded into the mode of ignorance, is elevated to the mode of goodness by the prescribed method of living and acting, then one can be saved from the degradation of wrath by spiritual attachment. Lust and wrath, when they are employed in Krishna consciousness, become our friends instead of our enemies. Example Hanuman burning Lanka.
Thank you, Mataji. So we have already studied the sloka in which contemplation leads to attachment, attachment leads to lust, lust leads to anger, anger leads to delusion, and when there is delusion, then there is loss of memory, of intelligence, then intelligence is lost and ultimately person falls down. So Krishna is pointing here that lust is the greatest enemy. Lust is the enemy which forces one to commit sinful activities. So what is lust ultimately? We have already studied about it. When we think of something, then we develop attachment, and when there is attachment, we develop a certain kind of lust. Lust means strong desire or greed to attain something or obtain something or acquire something. So Krishna says that lust is the greatest enemy, which normally why lust should come? Normally, we are mame vansho jeev loke jeev bhuta sanatana. Krishna says that all living entities are my eternal part and parcel. They are eternal servitor to me. then why the sinful activities by such a part and parcel of Supreme Personality of Godhead? But because they get in touch with the material nature and they acquire mode, certain mode, and they act. And how they act? By contemplation, attachment, and lust. So Krishna says that lust is the greatest enemy. If you can control your lust, then the ultimate, the second step is after lust is the wrath or the anger, which is the manifestation of ignorance. So whether a person is in a mode of goodness or is in a mode of passion or in ignorance, he has to control this lust if he wants any kind of spiritual attainment or spiritual elevation in Krishna consciousness. So these lust and anger are our worst enemies. And now they are good friends also. If they are employed in Krishna consciousness, the anger of Hanuman in burning Sri Lanka was for a holy cause. With a pure consciousness, he burnt Lanka because the Ravana was an aggressor because he had kidnapped the wife of Lord Rama. So this lust, this anger can be directed towards spiritual purposes also. Similarly, lust for normally our lust is material in nature. We look for our sense enjoyment, sense objects which please us or which gratify our senses and which give us lot of so-called happiness or comfort. So lust, if we direct this lust towards Krishna consciousness, that is, if we develop this intense greed for serving Krishna in a pure devotional manner, then this lust and the anger of Hanuman, anger can be used also against anger for persons who are blaspheming the pure devotees of Krishna or who are envious of Krishna. We can be angry on them. That is a spiritual anger. It is not material anger. So lust and in this intense greed to serve Lord Krishna and the wrath or anger to act against the people who blaspheme, who speak bad words or who are envious of Krishna can be used, right? In spiritual context also. So now, yes, Mataji, this one also.
Sorry. काम एष क्रोध एष रजोगुणसमुद्भवः महाशनो महापाप्मा विद्धयेनमिह वैरिणम्. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, "It is lust only, Arjuna, which is born of contact with the material mode of passion and later transformed into wrath, and which is the all devouring sinful enemy of this world."
Thank you. So Krishna is very clearly saying that not only by coming in contact with three modes of material nature, the modes develop, but also Lord is very kind Father. He has given given minute independence to living entities. And by minute independence means that we can do whatever we want to like, whatever we want to do, he's permitted us. But the problem is that he has permitted us to reach back or go back home, back to Godhead. This permission is misunderstood by living entities. They become contaminated by material nature, and they, instead of using this minute independence of soul towards Krishna consciousness, awakening of Krishna consciousness, they work it for self-sense gratification. They forget about satisfying the senses of Lord Krishna by rendering devotional service. They get indulged into the self-satisfaction or self-sense gratification. So that is how these sins are carried out by this person. It is lust only, Arjuna, which is born of contact with material mode of passion and later transformed into wrath, and which is the all-devouring sinful enemy of this world. So the biggest enemy which Arjuna asked, what is the enemy which is impelling one to do sinful actions? Please let me know. So Lord Krishna says that two things. First is lust, and second is anger. So this is the step down scale. By contemplating the objects of the senses, positively or negative, one develops attachment, which leads to lust. Lust, if unsatisfied, leads to anger. then there is delusion, there is memory is bewildered, and then loss of intelligence, and then one falls down into material existence. Now, so there are three stages. These are three functions of the brain: thinking, feeling, and willing and doing. So doing is minus here. So thinking, mind has got three functions, brain has got three functions: thinking, feeling, and willing. So these are, when we think of contemplation, means think of them, then we feel like possessing them, we develop attachment, and then lust leads to lust, that is, we get a strong will to attain that or procure that particular sense object. So this is the downfall ladder from which one person becomes fallen down into the material world. But why it is happening? It is happening because of two factors. First factor is contact with the material mode of passion, and also misuse by us of the minute liberty or minute independence which has been granted by Lord Krishna to our soul. So this is the ultimate fate of us. Yes, Mataji, Shishti Mataji, this one also.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, this I read just now.
This one you have read?
That
Oh, sorry. So this one has gone. Why? You can read this.
Yes, Prabhuji. Yes, Prabhuji. धूमे नाव्रियते वह्निर् यथादर्शो मलेन च यथोल्बेनावृतो गर्भस् तथा तेनेदमावृतम्. As fire is covered by smoke, as a mirror is covered by dust, or as the embryo is covered by the womb, the living entity is similarly covered by different degrees of this lust.
Thank you, Mataji. So, it's a beautiful verse, and an analogy is given. Fire is covered, you see, the fire is covered by the smoke. We can see here on the picture top, the mirror is covered by the dust. Embryo is covered by the, embryo is covered by the amniotic sac or some kind of uterus. You can say embryo is contained inside the uterus. So lust is similarly three kinds. First, lust of human being has been compared to the smoke covered by the fire covered by the smoke. Now, whenever there is fire, we know there is a smoke, and when there is smoke, we can't see the fire or the real flame. But as soon as the smoke is gone, the fire is can be seen. So the lust of human being has been compared with the fire. That means it can be easily removed. The lust can be easily removed or can be easily controlled in human beings, living entities. Second category of lust is mirror covered by the, now function of basic mirror is to provide a reflective image of somebody. So now this, if you rub the dust, then sometimes the image is still hazy. So it is very difficult to remove this lust in such cases. And this is human being, and such lust exists in birds and beasts. Animals and birds, they have got this kind of lust. But with effort, it can also be removed. When third degree of lust is compared to embryo in the uterus of a woman. Now, embryo, we know that embryo or the fetus which grows inside the uterus is very tightly held inside the uterus. It can't even move easily. So this has been compared to the lust degree of trees. So first is human lust, which can be easily removed with efforts, with, of course, Krishna consciousness. Second degree of lust compared with the mirror covered with dust is compared with the birds and beast animals. They have got a lusty nature, but the strongest lust is when compared with the embryo in the uterus, that is trees. So these are three examples. They define different degrees of lust. Now we similarly, compare. Human can do it, can remove the lust easily with little efforts towards Krishna consciousness or devotional service to Krishna. Birds and animals, they are not aware. Their covering is still thicker. The animals, the trees are still have a stronger layer of, or much thicker layer, and they can't, like the embryo, they can't move. So it is very difficult for them to control this. Yes, any other person, devotee would like to read this one? Richa Mataji, if you are there.
May I, Prabhuji?
Yeah, Ashika Jain, Ipsita Mataji, so many. Yes, anyone? Yes, Mataji, please continue.
Okay. Hare Krishna. There are 3 degrees of covering obscure pure consciousness of the living entity. This covering is but lust under different manifestations like smoke in the fire, dust on the mirror, and the womb about the embryo. Lust is compared to the smoke. It is understood that the fire of living spark can be a little perceived. In other words, when the living entity exhibits his Krishna consciousness slightly, he may be likened to the fire covered by smoke. Although fire is necessary when there is smoke, there is no overt manifestation of fire in the early stage. This stage is like the beginning of Krishna consciousness. The dust on the mirror refers to the cleansing process of the mirror of the mind by so many spiritual methods. The best process is to chant the holy name of the Lord. The embryo covered by the womb is an analogy illustrating a helpless position for the child in the womb is so helpless that he cannot even move. This stage of living condition can be compared to that of the trees. The trees are also living entity, but they have been put in such a condition of life by such a great exhibition of lust that they are almost void of all consciousness. The covered mirror is compared to the bird and beasts, and the smoke covered fire is compared to the human being. In the form of a human being, the living entity may revive a little Krishna consciousness, and if he makes further development, the fire of his spiritual life can be kindled in the human body, a human form of the life. By careful handling of the smoke in the fire can be made to blaze. Therefore, the human form of life is a chance for the living entity to escape the entanglement of material existence. In the human form of life, one can conquer the enemy, lust, by cultivation of Krishna consciousness under the guidance. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. So,
Under
this is,
principal
so
guidance,
this is
sorry.
very clear here that so far as smoke and the fire covered by smoke is concerned is compared to human degree of lust, which is mild, and it can be, there is maximum chance of clearing this smoke or dust by, or the smoke by doing Krishna process, starting the process of Krishna. In the case of mirror, which is the animal level of consciousness, the chances or it is the covering is medium level, and the chances of removing lust in case of this mirror is also medium. And in case of trees, where the degree of lust is the maximum, the chances of getting rid of this lust is very, very little. And the thick, because the layer is too thick. So this is what is further explained in this one. P.C. Patil Mataji, Dr. Ipsita, Siraja,
Hare Krishna,
audience,
Guruji.
please, someone.
Can I?
Yeah, Mataji.
आवृत्तं ज्ञानम् एतेन ज्ञानिनो नित्यवैरिणः कामरूपेण कौन्तेय दुष्पुरेण नलेन च. It is said in the Manusmriti that lust cannot be satisfied by any amount of sense enjoyment, just as fire is never extinguished by a constant supply of fuel.
Yeah.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. Avritam jnanam etena jnanino nityavarina jnanino nityavarina. This lust is nityavarina. That is it is an eternal enemy of human being. Lust is the eternal enemy of human being. Kama rupena kaunteya dushpurenan alena cha. Dushpurenan len cha. It is said in Manusmriti that lust cannot be satisfied by any amount of sense enjoyment, just as the fire is never extinguished by a constant supply of fuel. If there is a fire, if we keep on providing fuel to it, it will never stop. Now, what is this fuel referred to here? The sense, the non-control of sense over senses and sense objects. If we do not control our senses, this fire of lust will keep on burning and getting aggravated also. So it is said in Manusmriti, that means we have to cut at one level. Now this fire can be extinguished at one level. Stop the supply of fuel, it will stop. Or cut the supply of oxygen, which is a normal procedure we know. So if we do it, then this lust can be controlled. Now lust, where is the, does anybody remember where are the, what are the three seats where lust normally resides? Anyone who has not answered anything? These three shelter points in our body where lust is the resting point. Level 1. It is intelligence, mind, and senses. These are the resting places where lust resides. So, yes, next one. Yeah. Mataji, one more, then Dr. Ipsita.
The enemy has captured different strategic positions in the body of the conditioned soul. Mind is the center of all the activities of the senses, and thus, when we hear about sense objects, the mind generally becomes a reservoir of all ideas of sense gratification. And as a result, the mind and the senses become the repositories of lust. Next, the intelligence department becomes the capital of such lustful propensities. Intelligence is the immediate next door neighbor of the spirit soul. Lusty intelligence influences the spirit soul to acquire the false ego and identify itself with matter, and thus with the mind and senses. The spirit soul becomes addicted to enjoying the material senses and mistakes this as true happiness. Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Thank you. So these are the three sides. When we see an object, we contemplate over it. When we contemplate, we develop attachment. And the attachment, the seat is immediately, the senses are communicating with the mind. So these are two places where lust is settling first. And intelligence is the superior department. First comes the senses organs, then comes the mind, and then comes the intelligence. And then comes the soul, which has got the supreme position. So the senses, the attachment, and the contemplation, attachment, and of course lust, they begin from the senses. They are passed on to the mind. And when mind is also gets influenced by the senses, instead of intelligence, the senses control the mind, then the mind also becomes the seat of lust. And if intelligence is also bypassed by the mind does not listen to intelligence, then intelligence also takes up the seat of lust. So these are three seats, but the soul is independent of all these things. Soul, because of minute independence that Lord has given to the spirit soul or individual soul, soul also takes side of the intelligence. And whatever the intelligence is already occupied by the lust, so the soul permits that lust to happen. And Supreme Lord, he is just Anumanta and Anudrashta. He is just overseer. He just watches. And like a loving father permits even the naughty boy or naughty son to do whatever he wants to do. So this is what is happening in this case. The soul is in fact also contaminated. Intelligence, of course, this being seat of lust, permits the mind to do whatever it wants, and the mind orders the senses to fulfill its desires or the lust or its intense greed. So this lusty intelligence influences its soul to acquire the false ego and identify itself with the matter. So this is the reverse action now. Once intelligence is compromised, thereafter soul also gets contaminated. What is the contamination? First is false ego, and second is lordship or proprietorship over the material nature. Consider that I am the master of these things. And when soul has got this kind of impurity, the entire ladder downside also becomes contaminated. So spirit soul then becomes addicted to enjoying the material senses and mistakes this as true happiness. We think this is a true happiness. We know that material happiness is not permanent, it is temporary only, it is not eternal. Spiritual happiness is the real one. Yes, Dr. Ipsita. Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Yes, Mataji.
Indriyani mano buddhirshadhistha namuchyate aitirvimo yaptesha jnanam mabhritya dehinam. The senses, the mind, and the intelligence are the sitting places of this lust. Through them, lust covers the real knowledge of the living entity and bewilders him.
Thank you, Mataji. What is this real knowledge of the living entity, which is covered by lust? The three sides of lust we just now mentioned: intelligence, mind, and senses. These are the three points where lust settles down. And once it is settled down, the real knowledge of the living entity becomes, a person becomes ignorant. He doesn't realize the real knowledge. And what is this real knowledge? Anyone?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, that I am the soul and not this body.
Very nice. Thank you, Mataji. And also something more.
To be in Krishna consciousness always.
Yes, very close to
Part and parcel of the Lord.
Yes, that is true. The real knowledge is that I am part and parcel of the Krishna. I am not this material body. I am the soul, and the soul is part of Krishna. And second part is Jivera Surup Hai Krishna Nitya Dasa. We are eternal servant of Krishna. So we have to follow his instructions. This real knowledge becomes dull or covered by the thick layers of lust. And then one becomes bewildered. Then he starts seeking material enjoyments. Yes, Mataji, this one. So please remember that the real knowledge is that we are eternal servant of Lord. Jivera Sarup Hai Nitya Krishna Nitya Dasa. And we are eternal. Mame Vansho Jeev Loke Jeev Bhute Sanatana. These are two eternal words which are defined our real knowledge. If we do not believe in this thing, we do not know this thing, then we are in ignorance. Yes, Dr. Please continue.
तस्मात्त्वमिन्द्रियाण्यादौ नियम्य भरतश्रव पापानं प्रजहि योनं ज्ञानविज्ञाननाशनम्. Therefore, O Arjuna, best of the Bharatas, in the very beginning curb this great symbol of sin, lust, by regulating the senses, and slay this destroyer of knowledge and self-realization.
Thank you, Mataji. So now Krishna is giving a solution. First, he told Arjuna asked that what is the enemy which is making us do sinful activities. Krishna explained lust and anger. Now he described about how lust works. Then he described where are the sitting places of lust where occupied in, and what is the impact of the lust. Now he's telling how to conquer this. So where did the contemplation start?
In the mind.
Contemplation, Mataji. Then attachment was there. It was the senses first of all, because senses came in contact with sense object. Then the thinking of acquiring that particular sense object started in the mind, right? So it is the first is label is sense, then there is mind, and then is intelligence. So Krishna says, control your senses first. He says, best of the Bharatas, in the very beginning, curb this great symbol of sin or lust by regulating the senses. We have to control the senses. Now, and slay this destroyer of knowledge and self-realization, right? Slay means kill it completely. So how to control the senses? Are the karma yogis and jnana yogis able to control their senses? Because we know, we have already studied in this chapter earlier, that there's some kind of dormant desire or unfulfilled desires. They continue to exist in the mind of a person if the heart is not purified. Even we will remember the renunciation about sannyas. Lord Krishna said, if the heart is still impure and one has taken to sannyas or the renounce order of life, then he is likely to fall down. Similarly, jnanis are also likely to fall down. Karmis are also likely to fall down. The only way to control senses is to divert these senses from material objects to spiritual objects. And spiritual object is devotion of Lord Krishna. So first step is control the senses. Yes, Mataji? Next, just a minute. Yes, please continue. Ipsita.
Hello, Prabhupada. Yeah. The Lord advised Arjuna to regulate the senses from the very beginning so that he could curb the greatest sinful enemy, lust, which destroys the urge for self-realization and specific knowledge of the self.
So, so this is in a continuation. It is a flow, because Bhagavad Gita is a song of Lord. Now he is telling step by step everything, and clearing the doubts of Arjuna. What is your worst enemy? Where does it act? How does it act? What is happening, and how you can mode of action, and then also how you can control it. So in this is just a recapitulation. I'll go very fast. Degrees of covering the lust in the living entities. We have seen that fire covered by smoke. The lust, different degrees of covering of lust are defined as beginning of Krishna consciousness, that is smoke and fire. Compared to this thing, it is easier because the layer is still not very thick. Second is cleansing by spiritual methods, by doing dust and rimmer, spiritual methods, that was mirror covered by dust. And third was knowledge completely covered, as happens in the case of womb, the embryo, which is, or the fetus, which is contained in the uterus, because it can't even move. Then furthermore, lust was more characteristics were defined. First, the lust covers pure consciousness. I told you that we are pure when we are born. We are pure in our consciousness. When we have not come into contact with the material nature, we are as pristine qualitatively and same as Krishna, but quantitatively, of course, less. Then lust is symbol of ignorance, and then lust is never satisfied. This is very important. Lust is never the greed for intense greed for possession. A person is in a mode of passion, he keeps on working very, very hard to acquire more and more and more. Maybe that he is not using it, but that lust for acquisition never stops. So it is never satisfied. So satisfying lust is like adding fuel to fire. Once you do it, that means another the desire will come up. So it is like in putting fuel to the fire. Then how to stop it? Then that Krishna has mentioned that this lust can be, sorry. So stop feeding it. That means stop giving fuel to it. That means control your senses. Don't let senses wander upon the sense objects. Then naturally it will die. Then in verse 40, we saw that lust has three sitting places of senses, mind, and intelligence. And the soul was superior authority. Sitting places of lust were these three. And five senses, all of us know, that sight, hearing, taste, touch, and smell. These are, and the mind is next one, which approves the idea given by the senses. that also becomes contaminated by lust. And then intelligence also thinks that probably it is okay. Now soul is also influenced ultimately, and soul starts enjoying the activities done by the senses, mind, and intelligence, and ultimately it also gets influenced and gets, because Lord has given, had Lord not given us minute independence or minute freedom to act on its own, probably we would not be enjoying these activities of mind, intelligence, and senses. But since he is very loving and merciful Father, he wants everybody to act according to his desires or fulfill his own desires. So this is what ultimately happens, that center of all activities of senses and reservoir of idea of all sense gratification is lusty intelligence. So the intelligence, we this is happening in our day-to-day life. We justify our even wrong actions by some intelligent answers and intelligent solutions. So this becomes the capital. When the capital is corrupt, all the states or all the departments, they will be affected, reasons will be affected. So influence soul to accept, and souls also acquires false ego, and it starts identifying itself with the material nature. So regulate the senses. Krishna says that regulate this. How to overcome lust? So you have to read Bhagavad Gita, because it gives perfect solution. Lord has given all the aspects of sinful activities that a person intends to perform. So this solution is provided in Bhagavad Gita. Even a late beginner can become lover of God by following regulative principles of devotional service. Now, it is such a miraculous thing that even one takes up devotional service. We remember the case of Ajamila. He was not, by default, he called for Narayana, his son. He didn't remember Lord Vishnu at the time of death. So Lord is very, very merciful. Even by default, if we remember Krishna, if we do not engage in regular, follow the principles of devotional service, if by chance also we happen to remember Krishna, he will come and salvage us. So then, yes, this is last but one verse. I would like to finish this chapter, just 5 minutes more. Yeah, anybody would like to read? Siraja Paudel Mataji, after you have not studied, please. Siraja Paudel.
इंद्रियाणि मनोबुद्धि स्याधिष्ठानमुच्यते एते ब्रीमो हयत् ये स ज्ञानमावृत्य देहिनम्. The working senses are superior to dull matter. Mind is higher than the senses. Intelligence is still higher than the mind, and the soul, is even higher than the intelligence.
Yeah.
Soul is even higher than the intelligence. Intelligence is still higher than the mind. Mind is higher than senses. Senses are superior to dull matter, body.
Thank you. So this is the hierarchy, you see. That the level, the body, then senses, then mind, intelligence, and ultimately the soul. This is hierarchy, how we get influence, because body is material basically. And senses, of course, everything is material here, so far as body is concerned. But senses are subordinate to mind, and mind is subordinate to intelligence, and the soul is supreme. And super soul, I told you, Paramatma, or the super soul, which is present in our heart as Paramatma himself, Paramatma form of God, he is independent. He is not affected by any of these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 steps, because he is a permitter, he is a simple oversees everything. Yes, Mataji, this one also, please. Shiraja Paudwal, Mataji.
The senses are different outlets for the activities of lust reserved within the body. Therefore, the senses are superior to the body as a whole, intended in Krishna consciousness. In Krishna consciousness, the soul makes direct connection with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Bodily action is functioning of these senses. Bodily inaction is stopping the senses. But since the mind is active, then even though the body may be silent and at rest, the mind will act as it does during dreaming. Above the mind is the determination of the intelligence. Above the intelligence is the soul proper. If the soul is directly engaged with the Supreme, naturally all other subordinates, namely the intelligence, mind, and senses, will be automatically engaged. Therefore, directly understanding the constitutional position of the soul with the intelligence and engaging mind in KC is the solution of the whole problem. A neophyte spiritualist is generally advised to keep aloof from the objects of the senses. But aside from that, one has to strengthen the mind use of intelligence by engaging it in Krishna consciousness through surrender up onto the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Even though the senses are very strong, are like serpents with broken fangs.
Thank you, Mataji. So how to control the senses? This is the ultimate, step-by-step description of how to control the senses. Because lust begins from this when senses come in contact with the sense objects. So hierarchy we have studied already that. So control the senses. Now the controlling of senses is the best done in the Bhakti Yoga or in Krishna consciousness. Even a beginner can, at any stage of age, can also start this process. So when senses are controlled, of course, the body is material. Body will act according to the, and we have already studied the body and soul, they are always active. So let us start from the soul. Soul is very active. All the time it is active. Now, how we direct the activity towards the material activity through material objects through the senses, or we direct the soul towards spiritual activities, that is acquiring Krishna consciousness or doing the devotional service, loving devotional service to Krishna. That is the function of the mind. But who is controlling the mind? The intelligence is controlling. So intelligence should be the supreme authority. And above the intelligence, of course, so the soul should be their deciding factor. So whatever, soul says, whatever intelligence says, the mind and senses and the body will follow. So this is given here. And this is a summary of, we can see here, two types of person. One is two persons are described here. I'll just very quickly finish this one. On the right side, you can see the bodily, this is a person who is going to, to his office daily and passing through a bar. He notices a lot of people are going inside bar and coming amused, quite happy after that. So one day he goes inside the bar and he contemplated, and then he got attached and he utilized it. Now, what happens in next, it says, the other person, he saw other person seeing smoking. He said, why should not I also do it? So he also starts smoking. But later on, what happens? Later on, what happens that the two persons' reaction is different. Now, sensual platform, this person thinks that, oh, it was a good thing to have it, but I'm not very, very happy. And this person is also perturbed. Now, senses are, in this case, senses are accepting this alcohol. But here he's said he feels that probably smoking was not good. So, third stage comes mental platform. Now, this person studies, go to a library and finds out what are the harmful effects or good effects of smoking. And he becomes clever now here, because he's working at a mental level. Now, at this person at mental level, he is further engrossed. Let me enjoy more. Let me go to some kind of music parlor and or listen to fine music and get amuse myself and get happy by listening to music. So this person is now thinking of other ways. So both rise to the level of intellectual platform. He thinks, no, it is not good to, now through literature, he has come to know that smoking is not good for health. So he gives up his smoking. And you can see the happy face of this person here. Now, this person intellectually, what is wrong if I have done it so? So he thinks on otherwise. He is using his intelligence on a wrong path. So now, fourth level is spiritual level. This person gives up smoking, rises to the level of spirituality by study and by contemplation. He diverts his senses, mind, and intelligence, everything towards Krishna consciousness. He becomes happy. And now this person is not very happy. He is in miserable condition. He is apparently very happy, but he is materially happy, and this is a spiritually happy person. So verse 42, we just know that that solution, how hierarchy of sitting places of lust, we have seen that intelligence, soul is the topmost place, intelligence second, mind is third, sense organs, 5 sense organs are there, and ultimately different outlets of activities of lust are our sense organs. Then this lust can be diverted towards lust or intense greed for serving Krishna, loving Krishna, doing all devotional service to Krishna every time remembering Krishna, and also never forgetting Krishna, considering that I am part and parcel of Lord, considering that I am eternal servant of Lord, so I have to serve Lord. If one develops this kind of lust towards spiritual lust, this is material lust. If we develop this kind of lust, and this can be developed by going through the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna's Updesha. This is last shloka of this chapter. Anybody would like to read it, please? Prabha Mataji would like to read?
Yes, Prabhuji, I'll read. Evam buddhi param bhutva samstabhyatmanamatmana jahi shatrum mahabaho kamarupam durasadam. Thus, knowing oneself to be transcendental to the material senses, mind and intelligence, O mighty armed Arjuna, one should steady the mind by deliberate spiritual intelligence, Krishna consciousness, and thus that popped up, okay. And thus, by spiritual strength, conquer this insatiable enemy known as lust. Hare Krishna, Dhanyavad.
So the ultimate instruction of Lord Krishna is thus knowing oneself to be transcendental to the material senses, mind and intelligence. O mighty armed Arjuna, one should steady the mind by deliberate spiritual intelligence, that is Krishna consciousness, and thus by spiritual strength conquer this insatiable enemy known as lust. We know this lust is like fire which keeps on, the sense objects and senses keep on providing fuel to it, and it never gets satisfied. So how can we do it? It is by utilizing our intelligence, the uppermost department of our existence, and direct it, intelligence direct not towards the material gains or material aspects, but the spiritual aspect, indulge ourselves in the service of Lord, knowing about the reality and our self-realized position, and then one can control lust. This one also, this is the last summary of this chapter. Yes, Madhu. Or anybody else would like to read this one?
I'll read, Prabhuji. I was filling the attendance, so it went off.
No
Okay.
problem.
Material existence of life certainly influenced by propensities for lust and dominating the resources of material nature. Desire for overloading and for sense gratification is the greatest enemy of the last one,
The conditions.
of the conditioned soul. Krishna consciousness alone, one can control the material senses, the mind, and the intelligence. Gradually, developing Krishna consciousness, one can be situated without being influenced by the material senses and the mind. This is the sum total of this chapter. In the immature stage of material existence, philosophical speculations and artificial attempts to control the senses by the so-called practice of yogic postures can never help a man towards spiritual life. He must be trained in Krishna consciousness by higher intelligence. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you. So this is the ultimate summary. Summary is, From Karma Kand, rise to the Nishkam Karma Yoga. From Nishkam Karma Yoga, rise to the devotional service of Krishna. So this is the Buddhi Yoga. From Nishkam Karma to Buddhi Yoga to ultimately Bhakti Yoga, and that is the ultimate. Because it is very difficult to control our desires and the other enemies which are resting in our mind, and even the greatest mystic yogis and also karmkandis and jnanis, they could not control theirs. But it is possible through devotional aspects only, that is Krishna consciousness only, that one can control his material desires and divert the intelligence and mind towards a spiritual journey rather than material journey. So we get contaminated when we come in contact with the material nature. We develop false ego, the bodily concept comes up. Then we develop the tendency to overlord or exercise, proprietorship over the material nature, and then we indulge in our sense gratification. So these things can all be done by sense. The ultimate message of Lord Krishna to Arjuna is, give up all these considerations and surrender unto me, leave results to me, and fight. So we come to end of this beautiful chapter, which gives us different, these are the summaries of different sections of any question, though it is quite late, but if anybody would like to ask anything related to this chapter, you are welcome, Mataji, Prabhuji. Attendance link I have posted in the chat box twice. Please fill the attendance if not done so before you leave. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Just one round of, I know you did it in, which is that? Vishwarup, Dashavatara.
Yeah.
Now, I read that thing, Brahmanas can become Kshatriya and Kshatriya can become
Yes,
Brahmana. And the
yes,
example of Parashurama and Vishwamitra. Can you just elaborate on that so that it will go to my mind?
You remember the case of Dashavatara? I'll just show you. The Lord Parashuram, he was very, very, he was humiliated and he was angry with all those Kshatriyas. But just try to project you. And 21 times he made earth free of all Kshatriyas,
What is the reason for him to do that, Prabhuji? Yeah, because just so that it will register in my mind, that's why. Just.
That is the exact reason. Just a minute. Can we do it tomorrow, because it is already 8:20?
Okay, Prabhuji.
We will do
Okay.
it tomorrow.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Sure.
Dhanyavad.
Hare Krishna. So we'll take it up because already it's 8:20, more than 8:25 rather. I should have finished by.
No problem, Prabhuji. We'll take it up tomorrow. Thank you.
So, okay, so we close the meeting today. वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय। श्रीला प्रभुपाद की जय। हरे कृष्णा डिवोटीज, दंडवत प्रणाम and Hare Krishna to all of you.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you.